Hey OM, what is up, Sledge Nation? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Smackdown, as of late, has been all about the Usos, and that has never been more true than on tonight's episode of Smackdown, which was without a doubt all about the Usos and their World Tag Team Championship opportunity tonight. Maybe too much about the Usos, as too much of a good thing always turns out to not really be a good thing, and they proved that on tonight's episode of SmackDown, and we are going to talk about all of that and so much more right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show SmackDown review and reaction show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
There was so much repetitive stuff on tonight's show that it's almost as if the WWE got rid of some key components of this show. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, they did. Right? They got rid of Aleister Black. They got rid of most of the women on the women's roster at this point, so there's literally like nobody left that any of us really care about. Where is Sasha Banks been? Nobody knows. They don't book anything interesting for Bayley or Bianca Bel-Air to really hype up their feud, as that's kind of falling flat for me on this show. Nothing really that important going on outside of the family dynamic and the drama that exists between Roman Reigns and his cousins, the Usos. Now, while I enjoyed many of the segments they put forth in this story tonight, there are a lot of problems with how they went about this. I appreciate the fact that they started the show with Roman Reigns coming out and actually having a little bit of a change of heart. Last week on the show and on the weeks leading up to this tag team match, I don't understand, and I didn't understand why Roman was so opposed to his cousins teaming up and going out and getting themselves some tag team gold to bring back to the family. Obviously, he's the Universal Champion. It's always going to be all about him. He'll always be the head of the table, and he came to that realization on his own, thanks to the influence of a certain Mr. Paul Heyman, who either watches this show and took my advice, or really seen that it's not really that much of a big deal and he should let them go off and do this. So the Usos had the full blessing of Roman and Paul Heyman, so they kicked off the show with the Tag Team Championship match. And it was a really fun, really great match. They gave it a nice amount of time. There were some really impressive spots. Dominic and Rey Mysterio defending their championship here for what would turn out to be the first time on this night, the first of two championship matches that were scheduled on this night, and it was really great. At one point, Rey Mysterio did his traditional world-famous body slide to the outside, but he got caught by one of the Usos, and then Samoa dropped onto the announce table, which didn't break. It would have been a little bit cooler if it broke, but I digress. There was some really good stuff. Dominic Mysterio actually looked really good in this match. The Usos looked great. And the finish of this match, while it goes down in WWE's playbook of the recent, crappy finishes or the controversial finishes, it actually makes sense in this scenario, and they did something right. They had the referee out of position as Dominic Mysterio pinned Jey Uso. But Jey Uso got his shoulder up, but the ref didn't see it, so he ended up making a 3 count, and the Usos lose. Now, I really kind of wanted nothing more than the Usos to win the titles and then go back and have Jimmy kind of shove it in Roman's face. Kind of one-up him just a little bit and get the championships and prove his worth, and I thought it would make for some interesting television. But honestly, by the end of this match, I realized that wouldn't have really been the right decision, and I liked what they did here. They protected the Usos with the way this match finished. They really didn't lose this match. They can go back and tell Roman, listen, we got screwed, the ref screwed us, and they're totally fine. Rey and Dominic get a solid title defense. They've only been champions for, a couple of weeks, so I didn't think it would be good to take the championships away from them after this history-making title win of being the first father-son tag team champions. Having them lose it so quickly would kind of be counterproductive. So I thought this was the great way, or a great way, to get out of it, and still now we have time to build towards a rematch of some sort. Now this is where things take a turn for the worse, as Roman decides he wants them to make things right tonight. He's super embarrassed by the fact that they went out there and got beat, even though it wasn't their fault. He's not interested in any excuses. He warned them that this was going to happen. He wanted them to go out there and represent the family, do what's right, don't go out there and embarrass me. He was so disappointed. It was very dramatic and it was great. But where he went wrong was wanting them to get the rematch tonight. He wanted them to have it fixed before SmackDown was over. Now this prompted the Usos to go hunt down Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville and try to get a rematch on this very same show. Why? That's where everything goes wrong. Everything goes wrong. Regardless of how the show would end up going off the air and how good that ended up being, there was no need to do that tonight. You could have easily had the rematch booked for next week, and then you could have done what you did tonight then. But as I said, it's almost as if they have nothing else to do. They don't find it important to build up the next viable contender for Roman Reigns, so they're just having him play around in the tag team division right now with his family. And that just seems like a waste to me. Obviously, Aleister Black is gone, so whatever plans you had for Big E are being put to the side, but you couldn't find a couple of minutes on this show for the former Intercontinental Champion? Maybe have him cut a promo at home. Oh, let's cut to Big E. He's recovering back at home from that unfortunate incident that happened on SmackDown. And, maybe you don't have to have him reference Aleister Black, but you could at the very least say, listen, the WWE fired that guy because they knew I was going to beat him within an inch of his life. He had a receipt coming to him, and now I can't give him that receipt. I'm going to transfer that now back to Apollo Crews. I'm coming back for my Intercontinental Championship, and all of the anger and all of the rage that I am feeling and wanted to dish out on him, I'm going to take out on you. And now you set that up and you go forward. Tell me how great that was in the comments section down below. And tell me why the WWE can't think of something like that. It would have taken 2 or 3 minutes to film something that simple for Big E. We haven't seen him on the show since Aleister Black kicked his face off. Now Aleister's gone. What are you going to do with him? You didn't have time for Big E. But you had time to show us the Street Profits 3 times on the same night, in the same show. We had time to do a rematch of the opening match in the main event. It just is retarded to me. It really is. And I'm sorry if you don't like that word, but that's the only word that comes to mind when I think about how WWE plans out this show. At the very least, they could have got a couple of weeks out of this and had the rematch take place at Hell in a Cell. Not in the Hell in a Cell, but at Hell in a Cell. Jay and Jimmy get their rematch, and then maybe Roman flips out and does what he does, costs them the match. This is a big pay-per-view moment for Roman Reigns. I don't know. I just didn't appreciate this all going down in the same night. I'm not upset, though, that the Usos are not the tag team champions. As I said before, it ends up being the wrong decision at this point in time. But the way that they went about doing it all in one show, like, how are you going to follow this up now? You did like 3 weeks of TV in 2 hours. Really packing on to this story, which, yeah, it's good, but too much of it in one show, it's becoming the Roman Reigns and the Uso show. Because once we go outside of them, everything else sucks. It should have been saved for something else. At the very least for next week's SmackDown. Because what did they book? Well, what do they tell us is we have to look forward to for next week? The Street Profits versus Otis and Chad Gable. Because all night long, we're seeing the Street Profits interact with the Alpha Academy. Chad Gable offers his services to the Street Profits because obviously Street Profits have been down. They've been losing as of late. They lost their championship opportunities. They've lost everything. So he wants to bring them into the Alpha Academy, to which they not so politely decline. Then we get to see them be confronted by Otis, who's all pissed off that they picked on his friend and they refused their offer and that maybe they should consider otherwise. And then it ended up getting into a physical altercation. And now we got to see for the third time that Street Profits, this time all alone, making a very calm, very cool and collected challenge to the Alpha Academy for next week. So we get that tag team match again to look forward to. You couldn't have added this? You couldn't have waited on the rematch for the tag team titles? Rey Mysterio and Dominic were on their way out of the arena. It was way after the match when Adam Pearce hunted them down. I did notice that Rey Mysterio changed his mask. So he doesn't wrestle in the same mask that he walks around in backstage all night, I'm guessing, but whatever. It's more power to him. He was looking like a rooster tonight, or a psychotic mohawked Ronald McDonald. I don't know what his gear was about. But Tiny Dad and Giant Baby Son were successful in retaining their championships, but by the end of this show, they didn't have that great of a night, thanks to the Tribal Chief, which we'll talk about in just a minute, because we have to get through the rest of this shit show. It's not much to really talk about, since it was really mostly about the main story, which we've already been talking about, but let's not forget the other little things they decided to do, like show us Seth Rollins and have an interview where he's going to sit there with Kayla Braxton and practically say nothing. And the only thing we could walk away from is look at this ridiculous suit he's wearing. I don't understand. Do you see this picture that I have here for you? Okay, this man looks like he went to his grandma's house, ripped off her tablecloth, and had the nearest tailor turn it into a suit. This reminds me of some curtains that my mother used to have back when I was 7 years old and I was just a little nightmare running around swinging my hammer at home. What is this? Why would you wear this? Everybody's talking about how hot Seth Rollins' drip is. This guy's walking around with a 70s tablecloth that belonged to your grandmother. Guaranteed you've seen this tablecloth in your life at least one Thanksgiving dinner. Seth Rollins, and the way he continues, it's got to be a work, right? He's working us. He's shooting on us. This is all a gag. He's working us for sure. There's no way he's buying these suits thinking they look good. He's like, I'm going to look like a ridiculous fucking moron. I'm going to wear that just so guys like Nick Nightmare can have their brain implode simply because I'm wearing this ridiculous thing. It drives me crazy. His fashion sense is awful. If he's really thinking this is good, if he's doing it to work us and to get a rise out of us, then congratulations. You've succeeded. Because, man, why are you walking around wearing grandma's tablecloth? The hell's wrong with you? And then he had nothing else to say. He had nothing to say. Kayla Braxton asked him a couple of questions he didn't want to answer. He said she was leading him with her line of questioning, claiming that Cesaro's going to be back one day and he always makes a comeback and whatever. And then Seth Rollins was just like, I don't care, and took his microphone off and threw it at Kayla Braxton, and that was it. That's all they had for Seth Rollins. We didn't have time for Cesaro. Obviously, he's still selling this injury, but he's not back. We don't have time for him. Just like we didn't have time for Big E. But we got time for Seth Rollins to flick his microphone at Kayla Braxton while wearing Grandma's tablecloth from Thanksgiving. Thanks for that. We didn't need it. Just like we didn't need a match for Carmella. Carmella came out tonight and had a match with Liv Morgan. They remembered they have Liv Morgan. Others like, oh, that's right, we fired that Ruby Riott girl, but we still got Liv Morgan. Instead of using her while she was with her teammate in a viable capacity to, bolster the women's tag team division or do anything interesting like that, we're going to use her now because she's all by herself and, we have nobody else because we're letting everybody go and Bayley is busy and Sasha's not around, so let's just use Livy. So let's throw Liv at Carmella. And did they do something interesting? Like maybe give Liv Morgan the win this week? Maybe as like a little, I'm sorry we fired your best friend, but at least we'll give you a little bit of a push. You could beat Carmella tonight. That'll be a big, mark on your wall. And, maybe we'll get you a little push as the fans come back. That's not what we got here. We got Carmella defeating Liv Morgan in less than 3 minutes. It was short. I can't say it was sweet, because it really wasn't. It was just another one of these matches. After the match, Carmella wanted the referee to call her the most beautiful woman in the WWE. Now, I appreciate myself a beautiful woman. I love women. But when I'm watching wrestling, that's not what's important. I don't give a shit about beautiful women. This isn't the Divas era. I want to see the most badass woman, which quite often can also be the most beautiful woman. Case in point, Becky Lynch. She's beautiful, but she's badass. She could feel legit. Carmella walking around, she's the most beautiful woman in the WWE. Blech. Gag me with a spoon. I don't care. Don't care. So this is essentially the same gimmick as Eva Marie, right? Because she's just coming back and being beautiful. She's going to be a role model because she's so pretty. She's wasting our time and giving us vignettes on Monday Night Raw that we don't give a shit about. And here we have the same thing happening with Carmella. I just don't care. You could think you're the most beautiful woman in the world all you want. And you could have your boyfriend sitting at ringside on commentary, putting it over all you want. It's not going to convince me. Because I certainly don't think so. Just like the Bianca Belair segment wasn't very convincing to me either. I love Bianca Belair. Talk about being a beautiful, badass woman. Don't have to look much further than the women's champion of SmackDown. But the way they write her promos, she can't be shooting from the hip because some of the stuff that she's saying here is just ridiculous. And when you break it down, the only reason she wants to fight Bayley is because of Bayley's laugh. She don't like Bayley's laugh. None of us do. She's cackling like the witch from Warner Brothers. A really phony, really fake laugh. It sounds kind of witchy. I guess some people could find it funny. I certainly don't. But Bianca Belair was talking about how people are putting her down, telling her she's too much of a show-off, telling her she's mannish because of her muscles. I don't remember ever hearing any of this before. But this is just boring and basic babyface writing. And it didn't really do much for me. But she calls out Bayley. She's challenging Bayley because nobody likes her laugh. And so for this, she's going to give her a championship match at Hell in a Cell. So Bayley makes her wait. Either that or the production people in the back didn't have their finger on the trigger in time. But Bayley's not at SmackDown. But she had a response to this challenge. She was live via satellite from her happy place, which was full of Bayley posters and this nice white couch that she sat on. And she sat there laughing as usual, which was cringe TV. This whole thing was very cringeworthy, but the bottom line is Bayley accepted her challenge, and then all of the screens in the Thunderdome turned into Bayley's face. All of the fans disappeared, and now Bayley's got spooky, ooky, booky magic like Alexa Bliss, and she takes over the whole arena, surrounding Bianca Belair with her ridiculous laughing face. And this is the best you got for the Women's Championship. This couldn't be a battle between two fantastic pro wrestlers. We have to get silly with things because, entertainment. This was not the best I've seen on SmackDown. This is not how I would be featuring Bianca Belair. But I don't run things, unfortunately. Just like I wouldn't be featuring a rematch that we've seen a bunch of times already. Constable King Dickhead Baron Corbin is still pissed off that he's lost his crown. We had to watch a whole repeat before this match even happened. They showed us 3 weeks ago when he took on Shinsuke with Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs, the guitar man, who's teaming with Shinsuke is so out of left field, and I don't get it. I enjoy Pat McAfee getting all into it and jumping up on the table like your drunk dad at a wedding, and he's just like, yeah, getting into the whole thing, but I don't think Boogs is doing such a great job. It's not the kind of song you want to play on guitar. That riff is better suited for violin, which is why it's played with a violin, but the electric guitar, it doesn't sound that great to me. Maybe that's just me being picky, but whatever. This match was unnecessary. It took Shinsuke Nakamura longer to get to the ring, dancing around with Boogs playing on the guitar than the actual match time. And then Shinsuke lost to King Corbin. Corbin doesn't get his crown back, though, because as he's leaving with the crown, Boogs is in the way, and he allows Shinsuke to retain the crown once again. So this goes nowhere, and we're obviously going to see this again. Then we get the Intercontinental Championship situation where things got mildly interesting once again. I thought this was very well done. Commander Yabba Dabba Dooza Aziz was not allowed at ringside for this matchup. So as Kevin Owens was making his way to the gorilla position, Aziz ambushed him and beat the ever-loving shit out of Kevin Owens, really doing a lot of damage to his back and body right before the match with Apollo Crews was supposed to take place. As Owens laid on the floor, writhing in pain, Apollo Crews was seen backstage laughing, all a carefully orchestrated plan to give him the edge in his upcoming Intercontinental Championship title defense. Now, this is standard stuff. This is fine with me. I have no problem with this. And they did follow it up with an excellent match which told a very great story as Apollo Crews continued to dominate Kevin Owens by focusing in on all of the points that just were injured in the previous attack by Commander Aziz. Everything here was done just fine. And then Apollo Crews would retain his championship despite the fact that Kevin Owens got his ass beat to the point where he got beat. He had Apollo Crews dominating for most of the match. He still, for just a couple of fleeting seconds, came within inches of winning the Intercontinental Championship, but he was just too hurt. His pop-up powerbomb didn't have the same effect as it would if Kevin Owens was at 100%. He started this match easily at 50%. By the time the match was over, the guy had nothing left, and the Intercontinental Champion was victorious. A solid title defense by Apollo Crews. This was followed up with a sneak attack by Sami Zayn, who came out of nowhere, which was kind of surprising to me. I shouldn't have been surprised because wherever Kevin is, Sami's not usually far behind. But he ran out, he attacked Kevin Owens, he delivered a haluva kick and says that Karma is the one that kicked him. Now that he's down, he's going to attack him. Now he's going to be hurt the same way Sami Zayn was hurt by Kevin Owens a couple of weeks back. So obviously Owens is going to be redirected to Zayn once again. Apollo Crews is now free to move on to other things, and the most obvious thing to do is to get him back in the ring with Big E, as now Big E's plans, his table's clean, and his sole focus should be on getting that Intercontinental Championship back if you're not going to build him up for a run against Roman, which I wouldn't quite do just yet. The guy looks like a schlub after having his face kicked off by Aleister Black. He needs to come back and reestablish his momentum. No better way to do that than by giving him the IC title back in a couple. Apollo's run has been solid. He's got this little mini feud with Owens out of the way. Why not go forward from here with Big E? But apparently they don't find him important enough to even put him on the show anymore. So we'll have to hope for the best there. And then we come to the main event, the rematch from the opening match, a match so important we couldn't even wait 7 days because Roman Reigns says so. He's the head of the table. He's calling the shots. He wants this match. He's going to get this match. And Rey Mysterio and Dominic would defend their titles for the second time on this night against the Usos once again. This was a match that didn't go nearly as long as the first one because of Roman Reigns getting involved. The Usos looked like they were on the verge of losing once again as the Mysterio family had the upper hand in this matchup, and then Roman came literally from out of nowhere and super punched Dominic Mysterio off the top rope, ended up assaulting the Mysterios to a point in which I have not really seen before. He really went heel with everything. He hit Dominic Mysterio with steel steps. He was absolutely ragdolling Rey Mysterio. It ended up with the Usos just watching on as Roman just decimated both Rey and Dominic. He got Dominic in the center of the ring and applied the guillotine, to which there was no escape for Dominic. This is where some tension starts to begin to rise. Jimmy Uso wants Roman Reigns to let Dominic go. Roman is not responding, at first, but then I guess Roman realized that he has all he needs and that Dominic Mysterio's not even moving, so he lets Dominic go. And then Jimmy Uso leaves the ring and he's calling out to Jay to come with him. And Jay looked like he was about to exit the ring, but then he was confronted face to face by Roman Reigns. And nothing else in the world really looked like it was happening outside. They were just so locked into each other. It's like they didn't know that Jimmy was there. They didn't know that Dominic was still in the ring or that Ray was incapacitated outside. But then it was like Roman suddenly woke up out of that daze, boom, and went back and attacked Dominic again, getting on top of him, pummeling him with fist after fist as Jay stood there not knowing what he should do and Jimmy watching from the outside. This has been some really dramatic, really good stuff. Even though they ended it this way, so obviously they can still go on with pushing the Usos versus Ray and Dominic for the titles, hopefully at a later date. But with Roman getting involved now and him pissing off Jimmy Uso, it kind of throws off that dynamic. It almost seems as if they're going to place Jimmy against Roman, being that there's nobody else to fight the champ right now. And it seems as if WWE's in a holding pattern and that they're not going to do anything big like have Edge or Brock or John Cena or anybody come back to challenge Roman Reigns until we get back with the crowds in July. So everything's kind of in a holding pattern. Maybe they're going to throw this Jimmy versus Roman feud at us with Jay Uso being the one in the middle who doesn't really know where to put his allegiance. Maybe he ends up turning and aligning himself back with Jimmy. Maybe he turns his back on Jimmy and they go their separate ways. There's a million ways this can play out, which is what makes it the most interesting story in all of the WWE. But doing so much in one night really kind of overloads it and overexposes it. And when you're a show that needs to give people reason to continue to tune in, and you have our attention, you don't have to jam it down our throats. You leave a few breadcrumbs and then make us wait till next week. What next week is going to have in store for us, who knows? Oh, I know. It's going to be more of the Usos and Roman Reigns and the drama that continues to unfold as we are on the road to Hell in a Cell. What any of this is going to have to do with that pay-per-view, I don't know. They only booked Bayley versus Bianca for that. Until then, we still don't know what SmackDown's bringing to the table. And while Bayley versus Bianca for the SmackDown Women's Championship will be a good match, it always is, the story behind it, as usual, is just not really that interesting at all. And it brings down my interest in the match and the amount that I'm invested in the match. Hopefully, we still have a couple of weeks. Maybe they could make things interesting. And if they would just take a little bit of that focus that they're putting into the Roman and Usos feud and kind of sprinkle it throughout the rest of the show, SmackDown would be a really good show. Why can they do such great things with this one story and just completely phone it in with everything else? All they have to do is take that same dedication and focus that they're using and apply it to everything, and the entire show would get better. And yeah, they're making record profits, but you could be making even double that if the show you were producing was any good. Right? If they're making this much money and it sucks, imagine how much money you would be making if you actually gave a shit about your product outside of the good stuff you're doing with Roman and the shit focus you have on Charlotte on the other show, which is doing nobody any good. But that seems to be the only thing you care about on Monday night. Take all of that and spread it out evenly, and we'll have a much better time enjoying WWE. Thank you guys all once again for joining me as we bring the hammer down on SmackDown like nobody else on YouTube. I continue to say thank you for your love and support of this channel. I am nothing without my sledgeheads of Sledge Nation, and now it's time for you guys to do your part in the show. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button, not hick. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed anything that we had to say or do here today. Make sure you share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need a place to come and shit all over the WWE, because we are always welcoming new members to Sledge Nation, and all you have to do to be a part of that is hit that subscribe button. If you have not done so already, this would be the time for you to raise your hammers and bring them down on the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything as we put videos up, and I thank you for doing so. And let's try to get this channel to 3,000 subscribers before we hit SummerSlam. We're creeping up there slowly, and I can't do it without you. So please, let's try to make that happen. Thank you again so much for your continued loyalty to this channel. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team. Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Yeti microphone, even bigger and more powerful than ever. The most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you. If you've missed anything on the show, on the channel, it'll be linked in the annotations up above, and we will see you guys Monday night for Monday Night Raw. That's gonna do it. We are out of here. We will see you next time right on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com.
Thanks, Vince. Oh.